Man of Steel was released in 2013, directed by Zack Snyder and produced by the one and only Christopher Nolan following his successful The Dark Knight trilogy. 12 years and a failed cinematic universe later, Superman released in theaters last month, this time having James Gunn as its director. In this video, we'll be comparing Man of Steel and Gunn's Superman to see which movie gave us a better live-action interpretation of a Superman story. One of the key elements in any movie is its plot and its execution, and in my opinion, both movies are flawed in this regard. Let's talk about Man of Steel. Its story is simple and more linear. We start with the origin of Superman in Krypton and see the conflict between Jor-El and Zod. Then we see how Superman comes to Earth, and we cut to the present day where he is a full-grown man finding his way in life. The story is presented in flashbacks of his childhood, adolescence, and his father's death. Now, the biggest problem I have with how the story unfolds in Man of Steel is the downright intolerable exposition given throughout the film. Whether it's in the flashbacks or in the present day, people just can't stop telling Superman what he should be and what he's supposed to do. I especially took issue with the prophecy dialogue in one of the flashbacks in which Jonathan Kent says that he believes Clark was sent there for a reason. That was complete bullshit. Jonathan and Martha never took care of Clark so that he could do what he is intended to do. They raised him as their own son, primarily as they had no child. That warmth was completely lost when Pa Kent delivered these lines. Even when Superman goes to the Superman ship, Jor-El continues to tell Clark what he's supposed to do, how he's supposed to be a symbol of hope, an ideal for Earthlings to strive towards, and a bridge between two races. But we never see that in the movie. You know that line, show, don't tell? Man of Steel does the exact opposite of that. It tells you that Superman is a symbol of hope. Yet we never get to see that because Superman never cares whether the Earthlings live or die with the amount of destruction he causes throughout the film. That is my main issue with the story of the movie. Superman, on the other hand, has some serious problems with its plot as well. For one, the plot is just too bloated, with so many storylines, such as the relationship between Lois and Clark, the difference between how Superman and the Justice Gang handles threats, the message sent by Jor-El and Lara Lovan, the Baravian government and its schemes, and Lex's hatred towards Superman. And by the end of the film, you don't feel like enough time has been given to any of these plot lines, making you feel empty by the end of the movie. For example, Gunn insists that the movie is about kindness and it seemed old-fashioned in this world. Yet the movie only shows you that in only one scene. Specifically, the kaiju battle. You see reaction shots of Superman regarding the way the Justice Gang handles the attack, but that is where the discussion of this theme ends. Same goes for the message sent by his parents. It's discussed well enough in the film, don't get me wrong, but not to the extent that it was necessary. The relationship between Lois and Clark also takes a backseat in several instances, and it's never really focused in the film. And most of all, Lex's hatred towards Superman isn't explained at all. I'm not saying that Lex needs to be a sympathetic villain. I'm saying is that he needs to have a reason to kill Superman. Now, Gunn does tell you why Lex hates Superman outside of the film. It's not in the movie. And that's the problem. It should be in the movie. And the last problem I had was the death of the Baravian Prime Minister. Hawk Girl kills him, and there are absolutely no repercussions whatsoever. She killed the head of state of a country. Surely that should have some sort of consequences, but nope, nothing at all. It'll seem like I hate the stories of both of these films, but I don't. Most of these issues do not come while you watch the movies. But the more you think about it, the more problems you see in each movie. Then which movie actually did a better job in telling the story? Well, I'll give the slight edge to Man of Steel. The reason is, James Gunn's Superman assumes a lot of things and tries to explain these things in a word or two. For instance, as Lex Luthor keeps giving his commands to Ultraman, one of the employees says, it's like he knows Superman's every move. And then another goes, he has. He's been studying him for years. Another example is when Lex Luthor explains how he made his pocket universe, and then it's like, I use this, this and that. Same goes for how he cloned him, and what an intergalactic nymph is. A lot of show don't tell scenes in the movie. So Essentially, Man of Steel has an exposition heavy script, and Gunn Superman has a bloated and exposition heavy script. So, in my opinion, the movie with the superior plot, script, and execution is Man of Steel. We cannot compare two Superman movies without comparing their Supermen, can we? Henry Cavill plays Superman in Man of Steel, and David Corenswet plays Superman in Gunn's movie. Performance-wise, I do not think neither is superior to the other. Both did the best with the material they had. However, it is the writing I shall mainly compare. Now, Man of Steel goes for a brooding Superman unable to find his way in life, constantly struggling with having a lot of jobs and moving here and there like a fugitive. That was an interesting take, and by the end of the movie, you see him becoming stable and finding a purpose in life in the Daily Planet and being Superman. But my issue here is the character development is very minimum. Man of Steel does not give much of a character development to Superman. And now, if you read between the lines, Superman does get development, don't get me wrong. That is when he has to make a choice, choose Krypton or Earth. You see, Superman chooses Earth, but it's not clear why. If Zack had one or two scenes where we saw why he had to choose Earth, then I think this Superman is near perfect. Now, I don't think this version is completely devoid of character development. Nothing is easy going for him. Like let's say Tom Holland's Spider-Man, he does screw up and make mistakes. I also like his actions as Superman as well, such as surrendering to Zod and choosing to go to the world engine to save humanity. But I also think he has a lot of problems with regards to the characteristics of Superman. Superman is a character who loves mankind. I mean, he saved this falling pilot and then he proceeded to have a fight with General Zod right in the middle of Metropolis, killing God knows how many. I felt like that was where Snyder went out of his way and focused on the action over the character, not where he killed Zod, which I think was quite necessary. James Gunn's Superman, on the contrary, shares many characteristics with not just Christopher Reeve's version of the character, but also with many animated and comic adaptations of Superman. There are a lot of scenes where he saves citizens and animals from danger, even a squirrel, almost as if Gunn needed to get back at Snyder for the climactic battle at the end of Man of Steel. Either way, at heart, David Corenswet had the cute Boy Scout personality that many loved about Christopher Reeve's version.
Hey buddy, eyes up here.
But he also had many scenes where he questioned his existence after the message sent by his parents, especially the scene with Lois Lane. Although I will say that having Superman just sitting there talking to Lane while there was an intergalactic being above the city was a bit out of character for him. One of the best scenes were when Superman and the Justice Gang fought the Kaiju, and you see a lot of character in Superman in those scenes. In contrary, Man of Steel Superman just does not care what happens to most humans, and then all of a sudden gets emotional when Zod almost heat visioned these people. Arguably, the climax of Man of Steel is the weakest part of it. Now, did I have any issues with Superman in Gunn's movie? Well, yes. As I mentioned earlier, I needed a richer character development for him with regards to Jor-El and Lara Van's message about ruling Earth. It was there, but not enough, and that is primarily due to the bloatedness of the script. So yes, I do believe that Gunn made a better Superman than Snyder. When it comes to action, I really love the action of both films. Man of Steel shows you the raw strength of these Kryptonians, while Superman gives a dynamic and creative look to the action. Especially the climactic battle between Superman, Ultraman, and the Engineer was really fun. The score, on the other hand, is where Gunn's movie is gonna have the short end of the stick. The score is definitely, infinitely inferior to Hans Zimmer's Man of Steel score. The only standout of the score was when it used John Williams' Superman's theme. The CGI of the movies were pretty good as well, and not necessarily superior to the other. And the costumes? I dig both. Man of Steel has a more alien look to it, while Gunn's suit was more hopeful and more of an acknowledgement of the classic suits from the comics and the 1978 movie. All in all, Man of Steel may be the more polished film. with its intense action, layered plot, and grounded character arcs. But Superman by James Gunn feels more like a true Superman movie, as mentioned earlier. James Gunn's reboot embraces the comic book spirit with vibrant visuals, and emotional sincerity, and a protagonist who radiates compassion and moral clarity. David Corenson's portrayal channels the wholesome idealism long associated with the character, making Superman feel both timeless and refreshingly earnest. While Man of Steel reimagined the hero for a darker, more conflicted world, Superman restores the mythic purity and hopeful tone that define the character's legacy. Man of Steel is a solid 7 out of 10, and Superman is a 7.5 out of 10. So, yeah, Man of Steel might be a cooler movie, but Superman just gets what Superman is all about, man. At the end of the day, it's about hope, kindness, and standing up for what's right. And honestly, that is the kind of hero we could all use right now. And that's the end of another video. Hope you enjoyed it. Just be sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon right next to it so you never miss a video. Mr. Movie Man signing out.